sit down somewhere?
Mom, he's picking on me.
If you know your party's extension, please dial it now.
Houston, we have a problem.
Sick of all this complaining all the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Have we done it? Have we really turned the calendar into a new year? By the time this airs, we should be in 2021. New Year's resolutions be damned. The main one we should all be resolute in is that we're all going to hold hands and have a better goddamn year than we did in 2020. We are putting it out there, Liz, and we aren't holding back. So, Liz, what's your pump and flat moment?
So my pump moment this week was just, and I think you would agree, is kind of the outpouring of like positive support we've gotten for this podcast. It really has been truly heartwarming. I got a message on Facebook from a friend of mine from high school who, haven't talked to or seen in almost 30 years. But she said that she's been enjoying the podcast, appreciates that we're being frank and candid and are saying things that many people feel but are afraid to say. And it's just was so lovely to hear that. I mean, we've both been getting emails and texts and Facebook messages and things like that from people who are listening and finding it thankfully funny and endearing and hopefully relatable, because that's really what we're trying to do here. And so not only am I incredibly grateful that people are actually listening to this podcast, but that you're actually taking a moment out of your day to tell us that you're enjoying it. And that really, it really, really means a lot to me. And I know it does to you too, Lindsey. So thank you guys so much for all the positive feedback.
Definitely.
My flat moment was a series of moments that all happened within like 90 minutes of each other. I was getting off a conference call and I get an email from Will's science teacher that says he's missing a bunch of work. And so rather than wait for an appropriate time to discuss this with him, I'm like the queen of knee-jerk reactions. I just start yelling. I'm like, Will, what's this email? And then Dan's like, I already talked to him about it. And so then I'm like, and I'm yelling as I'm dialing into my next conference call. And I'm on that call and it's running long and I have a 2:30 appointment I have to get to, and it's an eyebrow wax appointment. And, we're masked. So the only thing people see are my eyebrows and I have to make sure they're on point. So my call's running long. I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm going to be late for this appointment, blah, blah, blah. Finally, I hang up at like 2:29. I race to the car. I get in the car. And as I'm getting in the car, I get an email from the reading specialist at Avery's school saying, I was so sorry that Avery wasn't able to attend Reading Extra Help today from 1:30 to 2 o'clock. I totally forgot that she had a Reading Extra Help Zoom at 1:30 because I was busy on back-to-back conference calls. And I'm sure the reading specialist did not intend to write this in a condescending way, but that's how I read it because I'm a guilt-ridden working mother. So that I'm all pissed now and I'm late. I slam the car door, back out of the garage, slam the side mirror right into the side of the garage door, and all the plastic come flying off. And I'm like, motherfucker. Yeah. So that was my 90 minutes of flat moments. And then I had to go and tell my husband when I got home from my appointment about what happened. And so I go into his makeshift office and I say, Dan, I might have banged the side mirror of the car into the garage when I backed out, and I might have broken it. He's like, might? And so he goes out and he sees the damage. He's like, hun, we're going to have to take this to the dealership to fix. And then I turn into like a 5-year-old child. And I go, it's not like I meant to do it. He's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. So it was one of those days where, if whatever could go wrong, did go wrong.
Yes. Wow.
What about you, Linz? How was your week?
The most important thing is the eyebrows are on point.
That's right.
And I need to know where you went.
J3. Okay. Lisa. She does a great job.
Okay, so
Every
they're
3 weeks,
open.
standing appointment.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get there. Because I have Karen and I have very cautious
waxing horror stories.
Yes. So we need to know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
So my pump moment, I have been working at the same place for about 7 years, and this week loved realizing that I really love my coworkers. And we're like family. And even during the most stressful times, and I think that's when you realize the best comes out in people sometimes. Obviously, the worst does too, but the coworkers that I feel like are like family, we've just really bonded and come together. And like today, it's Saturday, and we have a meeting today.
Oh my gosh.
And two of my buddies are like, we'll clear the schedule, we'll make it work. And we have a meeting later with a vendor. And everyone's just buckling in and doing what they can and being very flexible and amazing. So I just,
That's huge because I feel like that it motivates you too, right? When you see the passion and the desire and the drive, it's like, all right, yeah, we can do this.
yeah. And it's just amazing. And they realize that we're all in this together. And it's not like, oh, you're making us do this project or the bosses or whatever. And everyone's just being super amazing and bonding. And it's just really great. My flat moment, which you can totally relate because this happened in your house as well. Last weekend, after we finished the podcast, there was like a trio of things that happened at the same time. I got on email. At the same time, my son decides to sit next to me and tell me the same thing that I was reading. At the same time, Liz texts me, what the hell is this solar oven shit for science? So basically, there was this huge project for science that no one decided to tell anyone about. So the teacher didn't really tell our kids enough information to prepare them for what was to come the week that this was due. Secondarily, our kids were caught off guard, which made the parents caught off guard. So last Sunday, my husband and son were at the hardware store 5 minutes before it closed, trying to find pieces of material for a freaking solar oven. Are they prepping our kids for Armageddon?
Right.
Everyone was stressed in our house. Like, okay, what do we need? Like, our son was like, I don't really know, foil. And then my husband's really good at science. So he was like, okay, we're going to get this and this and this. And sadly, like, my son spent hours on his. And at the end of the week, he was so sad. His did not get very good ratings. So basically, if my son and my husband and I are out in the wilderness with a solar oven, we're going to be eating sushi, basically.
Yeah, but it sent your whole house, as it did mine, into a tailspin.
Yes.
You and Brian, and same thing in my house, we had to figure out how were we going to solve this problem because our kids didn't have enough direction. They didn't have enough time. So, you know, like you and Brian, I was out at the store trying to figure something out. I was digging through, you know, trying to find a shoebox, whatever. It was just, and it was a Sunday, like enough already.
Well, Liz, let's be honest. We're multitasking in heels. The shoebox was not an issue for either.
It was more which shoebox did I want to give up? That would have rendered one of my pairs of shoes without a box. So
true.
I picked an inexpensive pair from DSW.
Brian's like, we need a shoebox. Like, he was like really panicked. I was like, yeah.
Say no more.
Yeah. I was like, I think I can do that.
That was the easy part.
I was like, you go get on the rest of the stuff.
I know.
let's get into the topic of today,
Mhm.
which we have a big topic that
Mhm.
is heavy on a lot of our hearts, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners. But we are going to get into body shaming and eating disorders. We are our own worst critics a lot of times, and body shaming manifests in a lot of different ways. Kind of bucketed into three different pieces. We criticize our own appearance through judgment and comparison to other people. And this is um, more severe with social media that's constantly in our face. Um, we criticize another person's appearance in front of them, which is one of those things that's happened through life. It's not something that anyone's proud of. And three, um, criticizing another person's appearance without their knowledge.
Mhm.
This leads to the question if it is such harsh quant. Okay, I cannot talk. Not enough coffee. This leads to the question if it is such harsh consequences, why is body shaming so common? Um, it's it's so ugly and it hurts so many people that we end up doing it by accident
Mhm.
or on purpose or through our own self worth,
Mhm.
self loathing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pervasive in our culture a lot, and I think largely because of the images that we see every day in the media and the, filtered and retouched images, and it just constantly subliminally feeds this message of you need to attain perfection.
Yeah,
Um, and that's unattainable. And we're so quick to judge and put other people down to make ourselves feel better, and
right.
which is a really disgusting quality.
And it's sad for our kids
Mm-hmm.
to grow up in this kind of atmosphere and see like the Tyra Banks when here's a supermodel
Mm-hmm.
and they're saying, "Oh, you have cellulite on your legs." Okay, that is a natural thing that women are going to tend to have.
Newsflash, everyone has it.
Right. It is fat cells that won't go away with even the most up to date
That's
exercise,
right.
nutrition,
Mhm.
whatever you try and do. And these women are trying to do surgery to get it
Yep.
sucked out, which can be very dangerous. And then they're getting shamed about it.
Yeah, it was the same thing. I told you about that article about Lindsey Vaughn, where she had these pictures of her in a bikini on the beach and on a boat. All these comments about look at her cellulite, she's let herself go, whatever. It was gross. I mean, that woman's body achieved more physically than most of us will in 10 lifetimes, and that should be celebrated. And it's just was so disgusting to me that people felt it was okay to comment on her appearance, one, and to comment on it in such a negative way.
And the fact that people can just be trolls about
Yeah.
this and sit behind a computer or um, social media and just say that kind of stuff, um, it's not right. And
Nope.
it's creating this culture that is trying to be perfect, and it's not.
Nope. Or keyboard cowards, I like to call them.
Yeah. And, we've all had issues since growing up, and even, um, the two of us have dealt with it in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, my father dealt with it, which is probably unusual for a lot of our listeners. My dad binged and purged, which when I was little, I didn't understand.
But you were aware of it?
Hmm.
Okay.
And um, there was lots of times that I noticed he wouldn't eat breakfast, he didn't eat lunch, he ate dinner, but he would get sick in the bathroom a lot.
Mhm.
And I just noticed that he was very aware of his weight. He kept a um, piece of paper in the bathroom and would document his weight
Wow.
every day. And as I said in another episode, he saunaed
Hmm.
every day. He worked out every day.
And he was a really good athlete, right, in college?
Yes,
Yeah.
he was in high school and college. He was a four-letter athlete. And so I don't know if that was part of
Mhm.
it and it continued through, but it's very interesting when men have this issue.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, in fact, according to statistics, 10 to 15% of people with eating disorders are male, but that statistic is likely not totally accurate since most men probably feel a stigma about, admitting that they have an eating disorder, that it's typically associated with something that just girls have, but it exists for men too.
So Liz, how has this affected you?
It has definitely affected me for most of my life. And I think, this topic, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, a mom or a dad, or even a parent at all. If you're a teacher, a coach, an aunt or an uncle, if you're a role model in any way to children, I think this topic is really important. I think it would surprise a lot of people to know that anorexia is the most fatal mental health disorder. It has a mortality rate of 10%, which is really, really frightening. And even if you haven't technically been diagnosed with an eating disorder or know anyone that's had an eating disorder, everybody out there has at one time or another been unhappy with some aspect of their physical appearance, whether their nose is too big or their butt is too small or whatever it is. I remember years ago being at the gym and overhearing these two young guys talking about the size of their calves and how they worked their calves out every day because they wanted bigger calves. Newsflash, gentlemen, we ladies don't care about the size of your calves.
Yeah.
It's the size of your heart. Just kidding. It's the size of your wallet. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Keeping it light here. But there are nearly 18 million cosmetic procedures performed in the US every year, and the average salary for a plastic surgeon is over $400,000. So this is a business. Body shaming is a business. Making you feel bad about yourself is a business. Paying to improve your physical appearance is a business. And I know, Linz, when we were growing up, we saw images of quote unquote perfect people in magazines and billboards. I mean, I distinctly remember the Kate Moss, heroin chic, Calvin Klein ad campaign of the 90s being a huge, and feeling like you had to be waify thin, which is a completely unnatural body type for 99.99% of women in the world.
And it's unhealthy.
It's completely unhealthy. And today, our kids are faced with these images everywhere. Like, we had to wait till we got like a Cosmo magazine in the mail before we saw these images, and our kids pick up their phone and it's everywhere. But for me, my body image issues and disordered eating started when I was a freshman in high school. And my struggles continued off and on through high school, through college, into my 20s, and most recently last year, actually. And it started off as just me being very uncomfortable in my own skin, and insecure, not knowing where I fit in anywhere. I read a book last year called Eating in the Light of the Moon. And if you are struggling with an eating disorder or have in the past or know someone who is, I cannot recommend this book enough. It's written by a psychiatrist who specializes in treating people with eating disorders. And in the first chapter, she said when she first kind of started her practice, the one thing that every single one of her patients had in common was at one time or another, they felt like a misfit. And that statement rang so true with me because that is how I felt. And as you know, I got older, it became a way for me to maintain some level of control. If I felt like other parts of my life were out of control, it becomes this like safe haven and like a place to retreat to when you're feeling vulnerable or life is too stressful. Which sounds really weird because it's very damaging and it's very negative. But for me, I described it once to a therapist as a security blanket.
Yeah. And it's the one thing that you can control in your life. And
I can rely on it.
Yep. And that's the one thing that my dad and my ex-boyfriend, that they knew that they could control, because you can control what you put in your mouth or put in front of you.
Exactly. So for the past several months, I've been working with a nutritionist who's helping me improve my relationship with food. And I'm sure there are people out there who are eye rolling at the phrase relationship with food, like holy first world problems, right? You know, eat a carb, you weirdo. And I get it if it's not something that you've personally struggled with or had to deal with in your life, but the struggle is very real. And for me, it almost landed me in the hospital and away from my kids. And that was really, really frightening point for me, being in my mid 40s and recognizing that I had lost complete control of something, and I'm supposed to be a better role model to my children than that. There's a quote that I came across a few months ago. If you listen to your body when it whispers, you don't have to hear it scream. And my body was screaming. And I've tried to really take that quote to heart and listen to my body and what it needs. You know, if it needs an apple, that's awesome. If it needs a cupcake, that's awesome. And I mean, it's very easier said than done. I've been working with my nutritionist for 10 months, and it has been baby steps every single step of the way. But now we've transitioned to working with her more to set a good example for my kids, because for a long time I was not. We would sit down for family dinners and they would ask why my plate looked different than theirs. You know, if we were having like spaghetti and meatballs, I would have like a couple meatballs, but then I would have salad. I wouldn't have pasta. If we're having burgers, I would have a burger without a bun and half an avocado. I wouldn't have the French fries. So you look at our table and my plate was very obviously different than their plates. And looking back on it is a very bad message to send to your children. You know, I bake a lot with my daughter and she would say, why don't you ever eat what we bake? So there's just, you know, time and again, just these different scenarios that I've had to reflect back on when I could have been a better role model for them. I want to make sure that they can trust their bodies to tell them what their bodies need. You know, I never did that. And quite frankly, I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. I don't make my kids earn dessert in our house. They shouldn't feel like it's something that's a reward or something that they have to sneak if they didn't earn it. There is no such thing as a bad food. Food is food. The cupcake's going to taste better than the apple, but if you keep eating the cupcake every single time, your body's going to tell you, oh, I don't feel so good. Maybe next time you should choose the apple. So it's called intuitive eating, and it's not an easy thing to get to, but it's a place I'm hoping I can get my kids to, because I'm still very much working on it. So, you know, we said in our first episode that we weren't going to be giving out advice in this podcast, and I am definitely not doing that now. I am just merely sharing how my personal experiences with my body image issues and an eating disorder is shaping the way that I approach food and eating with my kids. And every day is definitely challenging. And I'm hoping that I do the right thing, because the last thing, it will literally kill me if my daughter goes through what I did.
So I wanted to ask you, first of all, so brave of you to share this. And this is why we're doing this podcast. And I totally appreciate you being so vulnerable and sharing this. And this is why people are sharing back, that they're learning so much from this. But when Avery's asking you these questions and you have been learning from your nutritionist, how are you answering her?
So at first, when she'd say, "Oh, Mom, have one of our cookies," and I would just say, "Oh, I'm not hungry," or "Oh, I have to have my dinner first," and whatever, just kind of move on. But one of the things that this is going to sound kind of ridiculous again if you haven't gone through it, but one of the things I had to work on one week with my nutritionist, she said, "You have to bake something with your daughter, and then you have to eat it," and that was terrifying for me to eat a cookie. I hadn't had a cookie in a year, so. But I did it because, I love baking with my daughter. I love spending that time with her. And I just had to remember that food is food. And and my body eventually got to a point where I could feel the physical reaction in a positive way to the food I was eating, that I started to recognize that my body really needs this. My body needs carbs and my body needs sugar, and it needs certain things to function. But it took a really long time to get there because my mindset was, you are not allowed to have that. You don't deserve it. Like, it was literally like, I can't eat it. Not even I don't want to, but I can't. And she would ask me, why do you think you don't deserve to eat it? And I was always doing these mental calculations in my head about, all right, well, I had 60 calories at breakfast. I only had 100 calories at lunch. So now I can have X calories at dinner. I was constantly doing this mathematical calculation in my head about what I had already put into my body during the day and what I was, quote unquote, allowing myself to have at the end of the day. And it's exhausting to constantly walk around obsessing about food.
Right. And it's really interesting that you said about that book that it pinpointed that you feel that everyone that's had this issue felt like a misfit at some point in time, because I think that every single one of us can feel that, because even if you're haven't gone through what you've gone to at that point, just even at the lowest scale, in college, I gained the freshman 20. And this, I don't even think anyone can do this, but I did it. My mom was very aware that my self-esteem might go real down if I gained the freshman 15, because it happened to her. And so she was just like helping me through, like not judging, but just saying, hey, this happened to me. I don't want this to happen to you. So I didn't gain it and went home at Thanksgiving and was like, yay. From Thanksgiving to Christmas break. This is like 4 weeks, dude. I gained, I think, 20 pounds.
No, that sounds like a thyroid problem. That's
like
great.
I said, I don't think anyone can do that, but I did it. I stuffed my face with pizza rolls, twists that you put in frosting, beer.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was disgusting. So when I got home for Christmas break, my mom was like,
oh.
And, the ex that I was telling you about who had the problem, he was very nice. He was like, I could tell something was different. Did you get a different haircut? No, I gained fucking 20 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And I had such low self-esteem.
Yeah.
I could not fit into anything. Had a horrible rest of the second semester. Got sick, probably because I was 20 pounds fatter. Had an interesting summer. That was the same summer that OJ went on his little road trip, and found out that I had ulcers and all this crazy stuff. So I ended up losing it that summer. Went back sophomore year just because I changed colleges. So I was at University of Idaho. And for that first sophomore semester, I was, hanging out. It was nice weather. And all these people were like, whoa, you look great.
Yeah. And then that fuels, you get rewarded, right, for your weight loss. And that fuels your desire to lose more. And
but also it made me feel horrible.
Oh God.
Because I was like,
how bad did I look before?
How bad did I look?
Yeah.
Was like, how bad did I get? And so by the end of the night, like at first I was like, awesome, I feel great. But at the end of the night, after all these parties, I was like, how bad did I look?
Yeah.
So it has probably made all of us feel at some point in some different ways. You know, there's probably a scale, and you were probably over here,
Hmm.
just horrible.
Yep.
And so everyone has probably had this struggle in some sort of way
Hmm.
and still struggling in
Yeah.
some ways with a food relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I went for a really long time feeling, and I'm not supposed to use this word, I get in trouble every time I use it, but normal, and not having any issues. And I saw pictures of myself from my sister's wedding, and I was like, I look fucking awful. And that just like was enough to flip that switch in my head. And I'm like, that's it. Something's going to be done. And it all, it starts off really slow of like, okay, I'm going to restrict this a little bit here, a little bit there. And then it's literally like a runaway train where I just, obsessed about restricting everything to the point where, I was eating almost nothing. And, we start to lose a little bit of weight and, people notice, as you said, and they reward you with positive feedback. So that fuels, at least for me anyway, that fuels the eating disorder even more. Cause it's like, wow, you think I look good now, wait till I lose even more, and, like I said, it was literally like a runaway train that
Well,
I knew I couldn't stop on my own.
I think it was interesting because I think, a few of us that hang out, we all kind of started losing weight at the same
Yeah.
time, and which
Yep.
was weird because
It was.
we didn't talk about it, and we
No.
didn't like go, hey,
Mhm.
you need a diet, we need a
Right.
diet. Like we just all ended up, we might have all saw a picture of ourselves somewhere and been like, holy
Yeah.
shit, what's happening to us at this age?
Mhm.
And it's really hard as women of a certain age,
Mhm.
we will say we're 35,
Mhm.
to lose weight.
Mhm.
And I saw a picture of myself as well and said, no, this is not happening.
Mhm.
And I went on a diet that boosted my metabolism,
Mhm.
and then it worked in my favor, and I felt great and lost some weight.
Yep.
And then another one of our friends did the same thing, but did it differently,
Mhm.
intermittent fasting. And then you started losing weight, and we all started losing weight. And we got
Mhm.
like great feedback. And then
Yeah.
it was like, yay, yay. And then it was like, Liz.
Yeah. For me, I don't know how, like, and I've learned that the word diet it's a bad word.
It is a
It's
bad
like
word.
the F word. Um, Diet culture is terrible, and I don't subscribe to it at all. For me, when I just made that decision, like I want to lose weight, I have never known how to go on a quote unquote diet to like a normal diet for losing weight. Even when after I had my kids, I was very, very lucky. My baby weight just kind of came off. I didn't have to, go on a diet or whatever. So for me, the only way I ever knew how to lose weight was to restrict food and count calories. And so that's what I did. And just kept restricting and restricting and weighing myself every day, which is, I feel your dad's pain. It's lunacy. There's no reason to ever weigh yourself. I actually got rid of the scales in my house. I do not need to know how much I weigh. Nobody needs to know how much they weigh. It's a number that is tied to people's self-worth. It is not going to make you feel better. Um, and if it does, that will be short term, trust me. So yeah, and again, I got to a point where I recognized I wasn't going to be able to stop because I was so ingrained in the behaviors and so had retreated to that place of comfort and safety. And I was not going to be able to stop on my own.
Yeah.
Which is why I had to, get some help. Otherwise, it was going to end really badly.
Yeah. And it was good that you recognized that and figured that out
Mhm.
before it did. And the fact that you're also noticing that for your kids,
Mhm.
and that you have a daughter, because that's the biggest thing. We don't need more girls to feel
Yeah.
that way. I know that one of our friends has a very skinny daughter, and she was told by one of our um, son's friends that her thighs were big. And I remember going, "Are you freaking
Right.
kidding me?" And she restricted her dinner for like 3 nights. This was sixth grade.
That's awful. That's heartbreaking.
And I was ready to go find the kid and kick his ass.
Yes.
And it is heartbreaking. And the daughter is a stick.
I know.
And so the fact that he said her thighs were big, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
What kind of culture are
Right.
we raising our sons and kids to say this?
Yeah, in our house, the rule is you do not comment on people's physical appearance, whether it's their weight, their hair color, their skin color, whatever it is. People's physical appearance is off limits.
I love that.
Because it's just is the person a good person? Are they a nice person? Are they intelligent? Are they funny? Those are the things that are important.
Yes.
Nothing else is important. So if I hear a comment about someone's appearance, I remind my kids that is not important. We do not discuss it because you could really make somebody feel bad. But it's like positive or negative. Like it just, there's no need to comment on someone's appearance.
Right. And that's the thing, is that we want to raise good humans, and that's the biggest thing. And that's the thing is, like, I think that there's more and more celebrities coming out. I think we talked about this on another episode of like Kelly Clarkson
Yep.
and like Lizzo and different people that are body positive and doing the right thing about showing up and saying it's okay.
Yeah.
And whatever you are, whatever you do, it's okay.
Exactly. And I think, kids today, right now in this environment, they're struggling with self-esteem issues right now so badly. The isolation of COVID, the elimination of sports programs, they might not be feeling great about themselves. They can't really see their friends. They're not as active as they used to be. They're certainly feeling out of control. So I feel like these kinds of conversations are really more important than ever. I think it's important to be mindful of building up our kids' confidence and having open conversations with them, whether it's about anxiety or body image issues or whatever, self-esteem in general. I think that it's just an important thing to discuss. We say our podcast is for the frenzied but fabulous. But in our opinion, fabulous is an emotional state. It's a positive mindset. It's not a physical quality.
Agree.
So that's my story, Maureen Glory.
Thank you so much for sharing. Should we move to
We're
what's
starting
in
with
the
the
box?
box. What's in the
list?
box?
Yeah. Do you want to
What's
share?
in the
Sure.
box?
So I think that this is a hazard, especially around Christmas, when you share an Amazon Prime account with the family.
Yes.
And lots of boxes come. And so I'm ripping some stuff open, and my son's like, what is it? You have a weird face. And I was like, ooh, can you put this in Dad's office? I think this is mine.
Oh,
And
no.
yeah. And he goes, you saw it. And he was like so mad at me.
Aw.
And I said, I'm sorry, like all of these Prime things,
Mhm.
and they say either my name or Brian's name, but
Right.
still it's like up for grabs.
Yeah.
And my son was just so funny. He's like, you saw it, Mom. He was just like so mad that
Oh
I
my
like
God.
cheated on Christmas.
Does Brian know?
Yeah, because it's open.
Oh, well, I mean, I have to say, I blame Brian though. I mean, he should really have thought through that a little bit better, knowing that you would probably be the one getting the mail and opening it. You're home all day.
I'm
He's
the
not.
one that's home all day.
Yeah.
And he should have said, hey, there's some stuff
Yeah.
coming. Anything that says my name right now, let me check. But also, we share the account.
Yeah.
So it's
So you're
like,
gonna see it, and yeah.
it's, yeah.
I will give him kudos for shopping before Christmas Eve, though.
Well, this year, on Black Friday, just
Mhm.
because they're having more of a problem because of COVID,
Yeah.
I gave him a list.
Nice.
And I was like, after we talked to Joe on our last podcast, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get screwed this year. So I sent him a list of a few things that I was like, you know what? CVS will not have these things. So
Right.
you might want to work on this a little bit earlier.
Well, good for you. Oh, that's hysterical. So my what's in the box this week was a recommendation from my sister. I got myself a little shiatsu massager from Amazon. And it's like so I found, and I don't know about you because we spend a lot of time at our desks, my upper back and shoulders are like so tense. It's like this tightness from
Yes.
sitting at a desk and at a computer all day. And it's, it's not like, you're going to Belisante and getting a deep tissue massage, but it does really work. It like has these nodules that like really need your muscles and everything. But just like the pedicure tub, my kids have also fallen in love with it. So like I'll come home and Brady will just be on the love seat in the family room with his Kindle and like the back massager. I'm like, you relax there, dude? And he's like, self-care, mom, self-care.
Shush. Oh, that is so cute.
But I would recommend it. It was like $60. We'll put the link to it on our website for sure if you want to check it out. So as Lindsey mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I think this is airing right after the new year. And based on the apocalypse that was 2020, the only resolutions you should be making for 2021 are to give yourself more compassion, give yourself more patience, and give yourself more grace because you have definitely earned it. Please find us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. If you like what you're hearing, please share with friends, subscribe, rate and review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.